I decided to acquiesce to Trevor's demands and buy ADKIN, or as I later christened him, ADKIN BADBUY. Welcome to One-to-One with Simon Jordan. Keep sending your video clips to the email address below. Also, your questions in the comment section, but I really want your videos.
Hi Simon, do you think that Man City having Harry Kane, if we get him, would mean that we'd have the upper hand on Chelsea with Lukaku?
It's a good question, because obviously Harry Kane is a very rare species of person that scores more goals in the Premier League than probably anyone else has done. But Lukaku, watching him yesterday, seems to have fitted straight into Chelsea. My view is whoever finishes in front of Chelsea will win the league, and I'm not sure anyone's going to. So whether the Harry Kane transfer manifests itself or not, I still think Lukaku is the more compelling of the two transactions.
The great Brian Clough once stated that if the chairman of a football club sacks the manager that he initially appointed, then he, the chairman, should go as well. I'd like to know your thoughts on this, whether you believe in it, and also whether you think it's something that should be incorporated more into the modern game. Thank you.
It's an interesting point. Brian Clough said a lot of things, because obviously Trevor Francis used to play for me, and he was a big signing of Brian Clough's. And Brian Clough, I also think, said that, you know, in one of his books, what do football club owners and football club chairmen know, and it was 3 blank pages. So Brian is right to some extent that if you employ somebody and ultimately they fail, it's incumbent upon you to take responsibility for that failure. Here's the challenge. If you're the owner of the football club and the money behind the football club, how are you going to fire yourself? You're going to sit there and learn lessons normally at your own cost. So it's a good point, and there's always an element. I used to say to managers, if you've signed a player and that player subsequently hasn't performed, it's your fault, because we signed a player for a reason that you saw, and you failed to get out of him what you saw in him. So there's also the same responsibility on chief executives or chairman, and if it's a chairman like Ed Woodward, who's an employed chairman or employed vice chairman, then yes, there's a very good case for that to be the case.
Hi Simon, with what looks like a financial demise in Spain and Italy, do you think the Premier League will now become the go-to league for the world's top players again?
Arguable that it isn't already, because you know, you've got the reality of the bulk of the best players, whilst you've got the exceptions that have landed in Spain and then subsequently been transferred to PSG. Arguably, the Premier League, because of the financial might that it has, will always get the bulk of the world's best players. But when it becomes the unique talent, you find those players playing in places like Spain, because it's a style of football that's suited even Lionel Messi. So I'm not sure that because the Spanish league is not necessarily a meltdown, it's doing something that every league needs to do, which is regulate itself and start to put salary caps in place. But there will always be a lure from Barcelona and Real Madrid, and once those teams have recovered their poise, and once the Spanish league has got itself back into focus, I still suspect that the iconic talents like Neymar or Messi or Ronaldo will probably still find themselves in those leagues.
I mean, while you owned Crystal Palace, did any one of your managers ever really want to sign a player that you maybe weren't so keen on? And if so, who were they, and were you proven right or wrong?
Tragically, I was probably proven right. The one case that really comes to mind is Trevor Francis, going on and on and on, as Trevor often did, a sort of war of attrition about ADKIN, and using every single version of how good this player could be for the side. From being a defensive centre forward, which I never understood, because I didn't want a defensive centre forward, I wanted a centre forward that could score goals. So eventually, I decided to acquiesce to Trevor's demands and buy ADKIN, or as I later christened him, ADKIN BADBUY. Cost me £3.5 million. I remember standing out in Monte Carlo looking at a boat. I just bought one boat over here. I was standing next to my namesake Eddie Jordan, who was buying a bigger boat, and I was thinking I could have bought that boat if I hadn't bought the guy that couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo, ADKIN. So there's my example of a manager browbeating a chairman into getting what he wants, then getting what he wants, and a player being completely and utterly not fit for purpose. So yes, it has happened to me. Yes, I did do it, and yes, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Ultimately cost Trevor his job as well, so we all lost. Don't forget to keep leaving your videos at the email address below, and also your questions in the comment sections, and don't forget to like and subscribe.